So just let me check here. What do we have to see now? So we have forums, assignments, choices, gradebook, reports, success condition, and more. Let's talk a little bit about forums. Forums are really useful if you want to get in touch with the course participants, if you want to send them notifications, if you want to create a collaborative activity where people have to discuss a case or discuss something that you would like them to think about. So it can be used in very different purposes. You can have a social forum, you can have a question and answers forum, you can have a case study forum. So this is a question of thinking about how would you use it. The issue here is that forum is better when the students are synchronized. This means that if you are going to launch a case study, it makes sense if you launch it to the same set of students on the same time, because the discussion goes interactively on that moment, and it doesn't make any sense 2 months later somebody will have some contribution to that discussion. People are already done with the course. So but anyway, the announcements, and I don't know if you have noticed, but every time you create a course, there is an announcement forum that is automatically created by Moodle. And it's a very specific type of forum, because this forum is only for the teacher. Only the teacher can post to this forum, and the students can receive these posts on their email. So this may be useful for this purpose. So let's just have a look at the news forum. You can enter your course, your training course you have been using. I'm going to enter mine here, where I have it here. This is the page I am. Okay, I'm going to enter my practice course here. And yes, there is an announcement forum here. So I'm going to click the announcement forum, and I can add a new topic here. And all the students will receive this topic on their email accounts. So this is like writing an email. Subject, message. You can attach files. You can also pin this specific discussion for it to be on the top. Every time the student opens the forum, this will be the first discussion. And then you have here, send the forum post notifications with no editing time delay. So Moodle has a 30-minute delay. Once you save a message, once you press here, post to forum, you have 30 minutes to change your, to edit your forum post. So you can have a look at it. If it's all okay, you have 30 minutes to edit it. After 30 minutes, the next time the Moodle cron runs, which can take 5, 10, 15 minutes, the message will be sent to all. So if you really are in a hurry to send a message, you can check this, send the post notifications with no editing time delay. So emails will be immediately sent, and you won't have any possibility to edit and change the message. Okay, there's also some really interesting information here, which is the display period. So you can define a starting and an ending date for the message to be available on the forum. And interestingly, it will be sent also, the message will only be sent to the students after the display start date. So you can schedule a lot of messages to be sent for your students on different dates on the future. And this is really practical, because you don't need to have reminders to send message A, B, C during the course. You just create the messages, schedule them here, and they will be sent on those dates. So I guess this is really plain and no questions arise here. So let's get back to the forum, and let's get back to the forum and let's have a look at the settings of the forum. So I'm going to edit the settings. And well, you have a description that appears on the forum page. So if you want to write some more text here, put an image, insert some instructions, whatever, it will appear. You can also edit the name. The announcements forum doesn't need to have the name announcements, but here on forum type, you will be seeing announcements. So this is a specific forum that Moodle creates. You cannot create a forum of the forum type announcements, and it's locked. Well, then you have here a lot of settings, which may or not be useful, defining the number of attachments and the attachment size. This is the most important option here on forum. Subscription mode. Subscription, it's not very obvious, but subscription is all about sending emails. So forget about if students can participate on the forum and relate that with the subscription. Students can always participate on the forum. What the subscription mode will define is if they will receive the forum emails or not. And you have here 4 options. Forced subscription means that the student will receive every single email, every single post that you insert here on the forum, the student will receive. He has no option to unsubscribe the forum. Then you have here 2 optional possibilities, the optional and the auto. They are exactly the same with a slightly difference. The auto subscription on all the students start subscribed. So all the students will be receiving emails, and there's a link on the email where they can cancel the subscription. There are a lot of ways to cancel the subscription on the forum, here on the forum, on the email. So every time you see a cancel subscription, you know that you're talking about finishing or stop receiving emails. So the auto means that they will start receiving emails. The optional, they won't receive emails unless they subscribe. I think the optional is not easy to use because majority of students will not subscribe a forum if they are not informed that they should do that to receive the emails. And finally, you have the disabled subscription, no emails sent by the forum. Okay, and then you have here other options, lock discussions, threshold for blocking a discussion. So these are really specific things, not very often to use. And here you have the possibility of grading a forum activity. So not on this forum, the news forum doesn't make any sense because students cannot post here, but you can create a forum for a case discussion, and you can grade the students' contributions to the forum. And his final grade may be the sum of all the grades he has, the minimum grade he has, the maximum grade, the count of grades, the average of grades, or no ratings for a non-graded forum. So this is it about the Muse forum. Now let me just show you here. Once you create a forum, the options are exactly the same. I'm going to turn editing on. And the options are exactly the same, but you have here a few more options. Okay, I'm going to add an activity resource, choose here the forum, add. And then I have here the forum type. Now I can choose the forum type. Everything is the same. So you can have the standard for general use is a forum that everybody can answer and post. You have here each person posts one discussion. This is useful for a case study or something, or something that students have to submit an answer, one answer only. So each person posts one discussion. Students are not allowed to post two discussions. This makes it easy for you to grade the student contributions if you force them to only have one contribution, and then they can reply as many as they want to all the questions, including their posts, their own posts. But they only can post one discussion. Question and answer forum, single simple discussion. These are very specific. Single simple discussion, what you write here is the discussion, and students can only reply to this topic that you launch here. So it's something really focused. You don't want each one to create a topic. They just have to answer this one that you have created. The question and answer forum, you can create questions. Students can answer those questions, and they will only be allowed to see the other student answers once they answer the question. So these are very specific types of forums. Well, I will ask you if do you think this is something that you will be using?
I think so, especially to track, because this is blended, to track students, or even to keep some questions or reviews. This could be a good way of making them ask questions back to us whenever they're going through the online material. And it could be set as a precursor to any kind of webinars, so they can post some questions in advance. So webinars could cover those. So I think it's going to be useful. It's a way of communicating with the students.
Perfect. Okay, and you have the advantage of choosing here the kind of subscription you want for all the students to be informed about what's happening. So the first subscription is really strong. I recommend the auto subscription. If you want them all to receive emails, I recommend the auto. This has the advantage that the student anytime can
Yeah.
quit the message, the email receiving. If he's not already doing this course, he doesn't need to be receiving emails from all the courses he has done in the past. Okay, so I would give you 2 or 3 minutes to create a forum to see if there is any question, and think about ways you can use it, and ask me something if you need.
Okay.
Okay, any question, any suggestion, any?
No, all okay. Good for me.
Okay, so I would suggest us to move on to the next topic. Okay, we have here the assignments. The purpose of the assignments is to collect some work from the students. Okay, so the best way to show you an assignment is maybe let me have a look here on my course. I have here an assignment, but this is not a good example. Okay, so let's create one assignment and let's do this together. Let's add an activity or resource and we will find here the first activity is the assignment. And let's press add. Okay, the assignment has a lot of options. So first thing, assignment name. So I'm going to put here test assignment. Okay, then the description is really important because it's here where you are going to put the instructions for the assignment. So it's important that you place here all the information the student will need to complete the assignment, instructions and so on. You have the possibility to append some files. You have here a files box. So if you have an Excel file or a report they have to read or something, you can attach it here, down here. Okay. You can also attach a link. You can also attach a document as a link. I think you remember if I select a word and I press here link, then I have here the possibility to browse repositories. And this way I will get the possibility to add a file to that link. So you can put here a set of bullets. Each bullet opens a file. And this is an alternative way to make files available to your students. Then we have here the dates which we have to set up for the assignment. Allow submissions from. You may enable or disable this date, this box. So this is the starting date. Before this date, students won't be allowed to submit any file, okay, or submit any work. And then you have here two dates, the due date and the cutoff date. And these two dates seem the same, but are different. Due date is the date that is
due, so it's the deadline to submit, and the cutoff date is if someone is delayed, it's the very last opportunity, isn't it?
Yes, it can be that. So cutoff date, you cannot submit after the cutoff date, and only the students will only see the due date. The due date is the official date that appears on the calendar. Okay, if you want to see a reminder on your dashboard as a teacher that you have to grade an activity, you can also activate here this date. Okay, this box here always show description. If you uncheck it, the description, this description here will only be shown between these two dates, allow submission from and due dates. Out of these two dates, the description will be given. So it's a possibility that you can use. Okay, then you have to define what kind of submission your student will be doing. And you have two possibilities. You can submit an online text, a text area with the editor where you can add some text, or a file submission. So this depends on the size of your assignment. If you are expecting to receive a lot of pages, file submission is better. If the assignment is just a single sentence, okay, online text is perfect. He just writes the text and submits his work. He doesn't need to create a file and submit the file. Okay, word limit is related to the online text, obviously. If you activate here the file submission, the word limit is not available. And these settings here are related to the file submissions. So you can ask for, you can limit the number of files, the size of the files. It's not a good idea to leave 600 megabytes. Okay, so you should choose something that is reasonable. And finally, you can define which file types you want the students to submit. You can get here choose. Let's find here expand documents, and on the document files, I will click here on the PDF document, and this is it. Save changes. Students can only submit PDF files. I don't want any other kind of files. Okay. Well, then you have the feedback types. This is related to the feedback that you are going to give to the student. So if you have any doubts about this, just check them all, and then you will use whatever you want. But anyway, feedback comments, you can write a comment related to the submission, and the student will see it. Annotate PDF, you will be allowed to annotate the PDF that the student submitted. You can annotate, put comments, put the highlights, and so on. And it's really interesting to grade a student's work and give feedback on top of his work. So this is really interesting. Offline grading worksheet allows you to download and upload the grades. Feedback files allows you to upload also the feedback. So if you want to grade not on Moodle, you want to give the gradings on your computer and then upload them to Moodle, you can use these two options to make it possible without any issue. We are going to see more or less how this works. Okay, then you have here the submission settings. We have here a lot of settings. Let's try to see the most important here. So require the students to click the submit button. The students will have an upload button. If you choose no, once the students upload a work, an assignment, it's considered to be submitted. If you put yes, the students will have the upload button and the submit button. So they have to upload content. They can upload in several different moments. Only when they consider the work is ready, they will click the submit button. So this is an option. I would say if you don't want to create any difficulties for your students may not understand this, so choose no. Okay. Well, require students to accept the submission statement. This is a text that they will have to accept that refers that the work is original and it's their own work and so on. Well, the attempts, the attempts means that once the student submits, you can reopen his attempt for him to resubmit because there's something wrong, or Moodle can automatically reopen the assignment for the student to submit once he has a negative grade. He doesn't have a passing grade. So this is something that it's not very often used, but you can manually reopen an attempt or automatically to ensure that the students will get the passing grade. Okay. Well, groups is something that is not, it's a very wide tool that Moodle has, the possibility of having working groups inside the course. Do you think you will be using this, dividing your students into groups and promoting some group assignments?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Do you think you will be using group assignments?
We may, not that often, but we may.
Okay, so for now, because we haven't talked about groups, I'm going to leave here no, and then we will talk about groups and we will come back to the assignment because it's the most important activity to work group is the group assignment, of course. All the others are really easy to understand how they work with. Okay, notification, this is obvious. Notify you as a grader. or notify the students. This is the default setting. You can change it when you are grading. Once you grade the student, you have a checkbox to notify the student that he has a grading. If you always say no, it makes sense to change the default to no, and you avoid always changing the checkbox to no. Then you have here the grade. Okay, here I recommend, as I've been recommending on the other activities, use point 100. Okay, it's easier for you to all the activities for you and for the student. All the activities must have a maximum grade of 100. Okay, this can be really sophisticated, the assignment, and you have here different ways of grading the assignment. If you are using the simple direct grading, you just have to write, when you are grading, you just have to write a grade from 0 to 100. You can use marking guides or rubrics to grade your students. And basically, marking guides or rubrics will divide the grade into several criteria, and you will be grading each criteria, and the student will get the overall grade, that is the sum of all criteria. And the student will also be able to see the marking grade and understand why did he got that grade. This is something that represents some settings. You have to do some settings here. You have to, if you choose marking guide or rubric, once you save your assignment, then you will have to edit and define your marking guide or rubric. Do you think this is useful for you?
Yeah, definitely. That's an important thing.
Okay, so for now, let's create a simple grading, and in the next minute, we will create a marking guide or a rubric for you to see how to do it. Okay, grade to pass. We also saw this on the quiz. So you can define a minimum grade, 80 for instance. Before less than 80, you will not be considered to have a passing grade. Well, and then you have here three very different settings. Blind marking allows the Moodle to hide the names from the students while you are marking, while you are grading them. But of course, if you are an editing teacher, a non-editing teacher won't have the possibility to see the names of the students. The editing teacher can show students' identities anytime. You can just say, okay, let me see the students. So blind marking is something, if you are an editing teacher, you are a normal teacher, it's something that you will be using if you really want to hide from yourself. But then you have the freedom to see the students once you finish your grading or whenever you want. The non-editing teacher doesn't have the ability to change to check the student identities. You will be grading the students blind, really blind. Okay, using marking workflow. This allows you to, this defines a lot of steps on the grading process. And the steps may involve other graders. So you can assign one assignment to a grader or to another grader, and then the grader will change the status of the assignment to okay, already graded, and then it will go to the teacher to check if the grade is okay. So you have several stages, workflow stages, and finally there's one that is publish the grade. So I think this is useful in universities where the coordinator has to check all the grades before they become public, and he may have 10 graders, different graders, maybe assistants that will grade the different works. So this is really useful, but I don't think this is useful on your context. And marking allocation is the same. This allows me to allocate a grading to a teacher, to a specific teacher, and he will have the task to grade the assignment. So these two work together. Okay, so this is it. Let's save our assignments for now. Save and display. Oh, there's something missing. Oh, cutoff date cannot be blah, blah, blah. Okay, I just forget cutoff date. Sorry. Okay, so this is our assignment. Oh, sorry. Okay, so of course, we are seeing as a teacher, we see how many participants we have on our course, how many submitted, how many need grading, and so on. The students will see only this and a box to submit the file, or a text box to submit the online text, and then the submit button if we have configured the button to submit to appear. So we don't have any students on our course, so we cannot see anything. If we check here, view all submissions, we won't be able to check nothing. So let me just think about what can we do. Well, I think I can show you here on other. I can show you here what happens when you have students and they have submitted. Okay, I'm just going here. So this is really useful if you are working with assignments. Let me show you here. So here, let me change this to English. So here we have exactly the same grading summary, but here we already have 3 participants, 2 submitted, 0 needs grading. I already graded them, okay? So first, let me check here. We have here 2 buttons, view all submissions and grade. Let's have a look at the view all submissions interface. So here you have a list of all the students and the status of each work and the file submissions they have submitted. So I can click here and just open the file is submitted. Okay, very well. So I have this possibility to check here all information. There's plenty of information. The grade, everything is here. Okay, here you have a lot of actions you can do. This is a really, you can use this really easily, but you can have here a lot of options. So you can here on the edit box, you can change the grade. You can prevent submission changes. If you don't have a cutoff date, you can prevent the student to change the submission. You can edit the submission. You can grant an extension to a specific student. And you can also do these actions to more than one student. Just select them. And here with selected, lock and lock, download, grant extension, allow another attempt, and feedback files. You have here these actions here.
Okay.
So one thing interesting here is also the quick grading. The quick grading will allow you to edit the grade directly on these boxes. So this is really practical when you have seen the assignments out of Moodle. So how could I see the assignments out of Moodle? Well,
Download there, wasn't it?
download them, yes. But this checkbox here is important. Download submissions in folders, because each student will be on a different folder. It's easier for you to separate things. So once you make sure that this checkbox here is checked, you can come here to grading actions and you can download all submissions.
Nice.
You can also download a grading worksheet where all the students appear and the grades, and then you can change the grades and upload it to change the student grades. And you can also upload the multiple feedbacks files in a zip. I just want to remember you that when we were setting up the assignment, there was an option, grading worksheet and feedback files. So that's why you have here the upload grading worksheet possibility and upload multiple feedback files in a zip. If you hadn't selected those two feedback options, these two options wouldn't be available here. So this is it. You have here a lot of options to do, but there's also this grade button, which is exactly the same as the button that appears here. And this allows you to use a different interface to grade your students' work. Let's press here grade. So what happens? What happens here is that the student's assignment is going to be shown here on this interface. And here you can grade all the student work and more. You can add comments, okay? You can put right, or choose here the wrong and put here the wrong. You can also pick one and delete, okay? So you have here the picker to delete. Then we have here other possibilities. We have the possibility to have some remarks, to add some remarks. So to add the remark, you just choose the remark color here, okay? And then you just draw a square, and then you have here the possibility of putting here the remark. You can delete the remark here, delete comment, okay? I'm going, this is completely full of remarks. I'm going to delete them. Okay, and you have here the several pages. This is page 1 of 2. You can move to page 2 and place here also your comments and remarks and grade the student assignment.
Cool.
Okay, I'm just going to delete this one here. Okay. So what is the advantage of this? The main advantage is once you save this, the student will be able to see this feedback file. So this is really interesting for you to mark your student's assignments in line with his text, the text he submitted. Okay, here on the right, you have the grade box, you have the feedback comments box because we activated this feedback comments option. And feedback files we also activated, so you can attach here a file like, okay, this is considered a good resolution for this assignment, and you can assign here some sample. And then you have here the notify students box. I told you that we could change the default. So if I save changes or save and show next, the student will be notified that his assignment was graded or his grade was changed. Okay, so here is the next assignment. Okay, they cheated. It's exactly the same. And the next student also, okay, this didn't cheat. It's an empty assignment. Okay, so this is really nice to use. You have here a lot of possibilities to give feedback, very personal feedback, very personalized feedback to your students. So
sorry, is there a way then to, if we want the same way that we downloaded the assignments, is there any way to download the feedback?
To download the feedback you have submitted?
Yes. So that document there, that you put the comments and the X's and the correct notes, and then the feedback. Is there a way of exporting or saving that?
Unfortunately, Unfortunately, there isn't. Let me just check here. Assignment. Let's go back to the assignment. But I believe you can download one by one, not all.
But you can download one though. Okay.
Yeah, here on View All Submissions, if you use this scroll here, you will see here feedback files. No, it's not here. Feedback files, feedback. Annotate PDF. It should be here. I don't know. Maybe because I deleted all the comments. Maybe not. I don't know. Let me just check here. Grade. This is the one. Okay, this is the one that is graded. Nothing. So let me grade here and let me put some comments here. Put something here. Okay, here. Save changes. Okay. Well, I doubt, I have a serious doubt that it will appear there, but I would. Oh, yes, it's here. View annotated PDF. Okay, so you have the possibility of viewing this. And let me just check here. Download all submissions, download grade, download
Multiple feedback files on a zip.
Yeah, upload only. You don't have to download. I don't know if downloading all submissions will include also the feedback file, but let's have it here. So we have one file for each. So it's this one for each user. No, this is the student submission, no comments. So you cannot download all the files. You have to download them one by one here.
Oh, but it's possible. Okay, no, that's fine.
Yeah. Here on the right, you have this possibility.
That's fine.
So this is it. So now let's have a look at one thing that was missing. There's two things missing: groups and the grading rubrics and marking guide. So I'm going here back to edit settings. I'm going to use this platform here. So I'm going to edit settings. And now I have here the grade. Now I must remember the difference between marking guide and rubric. So I think I know the two possibilities, but I never know the name of each. But I guess marking guide is more limited. It's you define criteria. Both have criteria, but the rubric, you have a criteria that has a maximum value of 30 points. So you can write 20, 15 or something. So you can decide which grade the specific rubric will correspond to the student work. You can input the grade manually. The marking guide, you cannot input any grade manually. So what you have to define when you define your marking guide, you have to define for each criteria several possibilities. Imagine spelling, okay? Let's create a criteria that is spelling of the report. So if there are any spelling mistakes and so on. And then you create different possibilities for that criteria. For instance, perfect spelling, 1 to 5 mistakes, 5 to 10 mistakes, 10 to 20 mistakes. Imagine something like that. And then more than 20, more than 50 mistakes, something like that. And so when you are grading the assignment, you have to choose one category inside of each rubric, and each category has its own grade associated.
Okay.
Okay, so it's more restrictive. It forces you to categorize the work of the student for each rubric, and then the grade will be objectively calculated by Moodle. So
sorry, Antonio, is there a way to, although you have the rubric and you have all those calculations and those forms, is there then a way of manually adjusting? So for example, if one student falls on a medium criteria, they're on spelling. So
Yeah,
it's from 10 to 20 grades on that, but the points. But one, although it's within that range, one is clearly better than the other. Can you add an extra point to students? For example, take one extra point to student, although you're saying that's on the medium range.
no, either you, if you use the marking guide, you have that limitation. You just have to stick to the categories you create for each criteria. If you use the rubric, you can put the grading you want. So you, if the a criteria is 30 points, has a grade of maximum grade of 30 points, you can give any grade from 0 to 30.
Okay, got that.
So if either you create, if you have that problem, either you create several
marking guides, or I create a rubric and then have the manual option.
Several categories for each rubric on the marking guide. So you have a lot of, you have 10 categories for to avoid to avoid generalizing it too much the grade of the students. So let's have a look at the rubric, which is easier to create as you understand. So I'm going to choose a grading method rubric, and I'm going to save and display. And this moment, I have this other page where I can where I must define my rubric. And either I create it from a template that I previously saved, or I create a new one from scratch. So let's create a new one from scratch. Okay, so let's give a name to this marking guide, test marking guide. You can give some description, and here you have the different rubrics or criteria. And I swapped the names. So this is the one that you have to define the levels, and the other is the one that you can input the points. So the names are really confusing, and I'm used to work in Portuguese. So, okay, so let's create some criteria, spelling. And now let's add some levels. And terrible, more or less, good, and add level perfect, or very good and perfect. So I have here several possibilities. Now I can edit the points here. So this is 0, this is 2 points, this is 5 points, 5 points. You have to press enter. 2 points, enter, 5 points, 8 points, and finally 10 points. This is the first rubric. Now, of course, you have to add up to 100. The maximum has to add up to 100 to be consistent with the grade that you defined. So I have to add another criteria. So spelling is the one, grammar, for instance, grammar. And I can use the same scale, why not? Terrible, 0, more or less, 2. Okay, he just repeated the points. He's smart. He thinks I might want to use the very good and perfect. Okay, and so on. I could add another criterion here. I'm going to add the third one just to, and I'm going to change here the points, grammar. So spelling, grammar, and creativity. Okay. Now I'm going to change the points to add to 100. So this last one will be 80, 60. This criteria is really important. 30, 20, and 0. Oh, you have here the duplicate. It would be easier to use the duplicate. It would create exactly the same scale. This button here. I don't use this very often, but you have here these possibilities: delete, reorder, and duplicate. I'm going to delete the criteria. Okay, so you have here another options. These are more or less obvious. I would just refer this. Allow users to preview rubric. They can preview the rubrics that will be used to grade this assignment before submitting it. Display the rubric description during evaluation. Display rubric description to those being graded. Display points for each level during evaluation and for those being graded. Allow grader to add text remarks for each criterion. Show remarks to those being graded. So you have here a very refined way to set up rubric grade. Okay?
Yeah.
So let's save the rubric and make it ready. And now, well, we come here to view all submissions and we don't have any students. So let's add a student to our course. I'm going here to participants. And here on the participants, I can press this button here, enroll users. And I would suggest you to enroll the test user, which is me. Okay, I will enroll Eduardo, if I can find him. Okay, I have here several. This one.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just an example for you to check how we can grade the student. Okay, so just get one test user is a good idea because I know it's my user. So, okay, Eduardo is here as a student. So now I'm going back to the course and I'm going to the assignments and I already have one participant. So can we move on?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you check here, view all submissions, you will have one student and you can press the grade button here and we will go to this interface. And here on the right, you have the grade. You can maximize it. Okay, and you have here the grade. Just check perfect, very good, and very good. And if you want to insert a comment for the student or just for you, it depends on what you defined on the previous settings. So here it is. Just press enter and this is it. The student already has his grade.
Cool. Very good.
Okay, so this is the most difficult to do. this one, the rubrics. The other, I guess you won't have any issues with it, so I don't think we should have a look at it. But anyway, if you get back here to the assignment, you have here an option here, advanced grading, and you can get back to the screen where you can edit the current definition or delete it or change to marking guide and create a new. So you have here the possibility to edit everything that you have defined. Of course, you should do it only after grading your students or before you grade your students, because after will have some impact on the students. Okay, we are here. Let's just have a look at the marking guide. Marking guide define new. So a criterion has a description for students, a description for markers, and the maximum score, much easier. So this criterion is called spelling. You have here the possibility of defining different names for the different users, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. Wait, spelling.
Many of them.
And maximum score here. So when you are grading, you just have to attribute to define a grade between 0 to 20 and allocate to this specific criteria. Any question about this?
No.
No? Perfect. So let's move on. I think assignments is okay. You just have to start creating your assignments, and now I want to show you the choice, which is a really interesting activity. I'm going to show you an existing choice for you to understand the purpose. So a choice is like a pool. It's a question, a single question that all the students may answer. And based on the student answers, you can show a chart, okay? This is interesting because it creates the feeling of being part of a group. So majority of a work, a quiz is an individual work, an assignment is an individual work. So these kind of activities like the forums and the choice create a group contribution. They depend on group contribution. So you can have put some question to your class and just show them the feedback, the answers you've got in this graphical manner. Okay, do you think this is interesting?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a really easy activity to set up. So let's just set one up. So just add an activity or resource and choose the choice activity. Okay, I would suggest you to have a look at the options and try to figure out what is the purpose of each option. If you have any question, just ask me. This is so easy that let's do this in a different way. Just have a look if you have any questions. There's one or two that are not obvious.
Just be plated allow more than one choice to be selected, limit number of responses allowed.
Why the exclamation mark option 1? See that? Exclamation mark.
Why do you have an exclamation mark on the option 1?
Sorry?
Why there's an exclamation mark on option 1? It just says it's mandatory to always have an option. Is that it?
Yeah, you have at least to have one option.
Yeah. Okay. I thought that was.
I don't know.
Any question?
No?
Okay, so when you choose to publish the student names, this is how it looks. It will say just the number of responses and then we'll show the student names here. So you can use this for different purposes. For instance, imagine that you want people to choose their own group. There's a better activity to do that. It is really similar, but the principle is the same. You want people to gather in groups, so I would limit the number of choices. Yes, each group cannot have more than 5, 5, 5, 5. Okay, and I will create here group 1, group 2, group 1, group 2, etc. And I would publish the full results showing the names and their choices. And this way people would be allowed to see who is in each group and okay, I want to be with this one, and so I will check this group here. Okay, so no questions, right?
There's one.
Okay.
Could this be used? Do you know Kahoot?
Could this be used too?
Do you know Kahoot, that app that allows us to do quizzes kind of live, where you have several participants and they pick an option and so forth and so on? Could this type of thing be used as a Kahoot option? So for example, if we're having kind of a webinar live, to have all the participants to come to something like this and do a quiz live where everybody can kind of see their results and who's picking the right choice and stuff like that.
Yes, you can use it. There's a specific activity which is called active quiz, which is even better suited to that kind of question. But I don't know if it's mobile friendly. Mobile friendly in the sense that it works with the mobile app.
Yeah.
I don't think so. The other one works with the mobile app, but this one is you can have multiple questions, and this is a live quiz. So then the teacher can publish the results. Okay.
And does that live quiz allows, yes, I think I've just seen there, allows to also place the questions kind of in the form of pictures?
Question bank, you can use the question bank, all the questions that you learn to configure.
Okay.
You can use the quiz question bank. So
that option is live quiz then?
Active quiz is but it's a model, an extra model. You must, if you want it, we have to install it.
Okay, could you install that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, let me just write it here for me.
Antonio, thanks for all those amendments.
Sorry?
Thanks for all those amendments previously.
Oh, no problem.
I'm a hard tester. I'll just say that.
Why do you think so? Okay, so this is it. Any more questions?
not in relation to that, no.
Perfect. So let's get back. So choices we have seen. Now we have the gradebook, but I'm going to put the access conditions first. Let's have a look at the access conditions. So we have here several. I don't have here many activities. I have here a quiz. I'm going to move this page here down. And let's have a look at the access conditions. Every single activity and resource has access conditions. So how can I see the access conditions and change them? I can edit the settings. This is something that we have been skipping. That is here, restrict access. Okay, we have been looking at this option here, but every single activity and resource has this possibility. So I can add a restriction, and I can add a restriction based on several criteria, and more can be available here depending on the kind of course settings you have. So activity completion. If you want to require students to complete another activity for them to be allowed to access this one, you can just press here activity completion, and you have here a question that you can, a condition that you can customize. So students must or must not. You guys are all engineers, right?
No, some of us are architects.
Are what?
Managers. Architects and project managers. I think there's no engineer.
Oh. Okay, so I had this idea because of Antonio. He is engineer, so I thought this project might be related to engineering.
No, it's only Antonio that belongs to the dark side.
Okay, so but anyway, we all had math and we know logic. So this is logic conditions, and you can use I don't know how to call this, denial. It's not denial, it's negation or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, and you can use also ands and ors, as you will see. So activity completion, choose. So I'm going to choose the one activity that is here. So the activity, I have here so many activities, I couldn't see them. Okay. So the activity welcome to the course must be marked as complete, or must not be marked, or must be complete with pass grade, or must be complete with fail grade. So you have here several options for the completion, but you can continue adding restrictions. Dates. The date must be from 23 October at 0. So you can define starting dates and enforce them on, and you can do this on each activity, on each resource, or even in an entire section. So I'm going just to save and return to the course and show you here this section. I can also edit the section and define here access conditions. So the
okay. So on the course itself, they may not be able. We can say that the students can only be accessed the sections as they did the previous section or something like that.
Exactly, or they had to have a passing grade on a quiz to attest
to access to the next one. Oh, that's nice.
Exactly. So,
but will they see that the section is there? But
this depends on what you choose here. So let's get back to the settings we were defining here. So if they see or not the restriction depends on this icon here. So if the eye is open, they will see. If you click and you check this eye, students won't see. If they don't respect this criteria, this condition, they won't even see or know that it exists.
Okay.
I can just save and return to the course, and hidden otherwise, Moodle just shows you here, hidden otherwise. And if you try just to switch role to students, you will be able to see that nothing appears.
Okay.
Otherwise, it would appear, but it would appear with a condition. Restricted, not available unless it will appear this information here. Okay?
Okay. So that's the same thing for the session. So if we set that up, they'll be able to see that there's a section, I don't know, about beam advantages, but they won't be able to actually see the content of that session until they complete that condition then.
They won't even see the section. They won't see the section. Nothing will appear.
Okay, and yes, if that's clicked off, but if that's clicked on,
They will
see the session, but they won't access the contents, correct?
Correct. They will see the condition. You must complete blah, blah, blah.
Before you get access to this. Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so I talked about logic, and here it is. This is an and here, right? So the and means that he has to fulfill
both conditions, yes.
But you can change the all to any, and the and will change to a or. Okay.
What's the difference between the any and the or?
Well, or it means that if one condition is fulfilled, he will have access. The and, both conditions must be fulfilled. So
okay, so sorry, I understood wrong. I thought you said it was an any and an or, so I was not getting the difference between any and or. But yeah, it's and or any. Okay.
All is the and.
Yes. When
I change to any, it changed to
okay, yeah.
So it's two ways to saying the same thing.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
People from math prefers and an or. The people that doesn't have any knowledge about logical, they will understand here. Match all the following or match any of the following. Okay. So, well, and I can keep going here. So
yeah, you could add more conditions.
Yeah. Grade. He must have a grade on the course total or on a specific activity like a quiz.
And so can you set to ones that are and? But for example, could you set that they need to complete one section and do one assignment, or simply do one assignment and that will override the other two conditions?
Yes, you can. It's not easy. You always have.
Is the last one overseeing all the previous? Is there an order to put that? If you know what I mean.
No, the way to do that is not so easy. Your questions are always very interesting, and it's smart questions. So let's have a look at that. So what you have to do is to create a restriction set. It's like a parenthesis between two questions. Okay. So I can add two restrictions.
Yeah, we put hierarchy onto your conditions. Okay.
Okay. So in this case, he has to complete these two activities.
Mm-hmm.
And now this is the inside.
Yes. Inside the parentheses. Yes.
Exactly. Or date from 23 October. So he has to do this or this and this.
Yes. Or the other one.
If he reaches 23 October and he couldn't complete this, so okay, let's just move on and forget it.
Cool.
Okay. So this is it. I think we have seen the restriction set, which is the user profile. You can just check a profile field, for instance, if he has an institution field or if he has some kind of or email address contains something, Siemens. Okay, if the email address contains Siemens, so I will.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Then you can add a rule that basically only applies to a certain amount of students.
Yeah, or even you can make an activity available only to those set of students. The others don't even know it exists because it's hidden.
It's okay on the same course then. Okay.
So this is a very flexible. And this is it. This is all about
So
accessibility.
theoretically, this is probably the most complicated way to do it. But if you have the same course, but you have Portuguese students and English students, could you set up a duplicate of every section and of every assignment, but then set up that only the students from a certain email, so the Portuguese email will see the sections that are the Portuguese sections and the Portuguese assignments, and the other ones will only see the English ones. So instead of having a course edition, you have the same course, but with sections and assignments only available to a certain group of students.
Yeah, you can have it. The problem is to compute the final grade and.
Okay, yeah, I got that, yeah.
But there's a way to do it. You also have here the country field, and you have the language field. Where is the language field? Well, you have here some custom fields that you have had, but well, the language is a preference. Unfortunately, is not here. But
Okay.
you have the country field, so you can country is equal to Portugal, so you can differentiate the students.
Okay.
There's also another thing, which is the multi-lang filter that allows you to, on the same field, insert the text in Portuguese and in English, for instance, and the student will see the corresponding text depending. Yeah.
So, and does that also exist on the pages and on the sections?
The problem is here. I don't know if you're allowed to use it here because this is a very good idea, the multi-line filter. You can, all the content can be different for each the pages and the quizzes and so on, the questions. But when you have these kind of fields, I don't know if you can insert here.
Oh, the title field then.
Yeah, this was a multi-line filter. This was an issue in the past. I don't know if it still is. Multi-language content filter. So,
because I'm just thinking, not right now, not on the short term, but on the long term, these courses will be available in Croatian and Portuguese, so forth and so on. So that causes a confusion. That means that we're going to have a different edition for every course on different languages. And then probably the best way is to have a different module so that each student will actually enroll in the proper module, which is a nightmare. As if we could have the same contents and basically one course, and within that course what we do is create multiple versions of languages within the pages and within the books and so forth and so on, it would probably be an easier way.
yes, it's true. Well, they don't refer here anything about they don't refer here that this is an issue. So I just going to copy this, but there's a limit on this kind of field. So that's an issue. I cannot put here as many text I would like. So span lang English, your content here in English, and then I have German here. Let me remove these spaces, they are not needed. Then I have the content in German here. So let me save and return to the course. Yeah, it works. This is the English version. Oh, no. It's not working because I don't have the filter active, but it is accepted.
Okay.
Now you have both contents here, but now I have to activate the
plugin,
the filter, which I don't know if it's active on the
filters.
So multimedia, I don't have it here. So as an admin, I have to activate it. Let me just change here to admin, set administration. I'm just going to activate the plugin, but I'm going to activate it selectively. And you should think about this always. Filters make a huge load on the page.
Okay. Yeah, I know what you mean. It'll probably work for a small course, but if it's something too complex, maybe we're better doing the additions type
Yeah,
of thing.
so multi-language content, I will off but available. This is the best option. Otherwise, it will only be available on the courses that will activate it.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, it's the same thing of it's the same thing of loading a family to software. You have it on Revit, you have it available, but they're not loaded until you say I need to use this. Okay.
Yes, because each time a page is
Loads, you need to load all the filters and so forth and so on.
yeah, not only loading the filters, but running all the page to check if there is something to replace, because the filters are just search and replace on each page. Before it gets to the user, it will go through the filters, and this is a huge load of work. So this moment content is not yet separated. So now I already have the filter available here. So I'm going here to filters, multi-language default off. Now I'm going to turn it on for my course, save changes, and let me just get back to the course, and oh, it's still, let me just check if everything is okay, filters. There are two multimedia, multi-language contents. I'm using multi-language content. There are two filters. Multi-language content filter, yes, and like, let me just check. Maybe it doesn't work because that's the problem. Is the that kind of fields. Maybe he just deleted all the span codes I had. Let me just check it here. So open here and turn editing on. No, it's here. Span lang English class multi-lang, your content in English, span lang German.
No, I think I know what it is. Is it? No.
It didn't delete the code because the problem is when he just doesn't like the code here, but span class multi-lang, how to use it in a course. Let me just try here also. I'm going to put the content here. Here also on the description, not here. I have to edit the HTML because and paste it here because the span must be inserted as a code. Now it's working. No. Search your content here, your content in other language here.
I think it's on the. It should be on the here that we actually
Content in another language. Oh, this is not the example. I was. This one is the example. English and German. Okay, so this span line English, span line German. So your content in English, your content in German. Here is showing both. Save and return to the course. Your content in English, your content in German, your content in, it's not working, the filter.
No, it's not working, okay.
But multi-lang, enabling the multi-lang, manage filters on or?
In the apply column.
Content and headings. If headings are shown in multiple language,
Apply to column.
It's not doing nothing anyway, but let me just check here the filter settings.
Apply to.
Setting. Filter multi-lang for sold, no. Force multi-lang, no settings here.
No, it shouldn't be there. Apply to, whenever you have there, apply content and headings.
Here,
Yep.
content headings. It's here.
Yeah.
And headings, and this is it.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, we don't have that language pack. If your site is no problem. Editing. We are using English. Okay, so well, we have this working on a few customers, so this is something that works. Oh, it's working.
Yeah, it was the content and headings that you were missing there, I think.
Your content in English, but I changed this content here. So let me get back here. So Name in English only. Okay, perfect. So it works. The problem here, as I told you, if you have many languages,
Yeah, many languages it becomes too complex and it will lack the thing.
and not only this field here has a limit in terms of size.
Yeah.
It may not fit. You have here a lot of code, span, class, multilang.
Yeah, if you're trying to put more than 2 languages, it won't fit the actual box content. Yeah.
Maybe it will fit more than 2, but you will find the limits quickly.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Okay, so
I was just thinking at the medium term we'll probably have 2 languages there, and I was just seeing if there's a way to avoid the additions for simple courses where just a couple of things will change because we have the trainer's training course, and that simply has 2 or 3 pages and the video, so there's no point of doing different editions for something as simple. That may be the solution for it.
Oh yeah, perfect. Well, I was putting that's why it was not translated. I was putting here on the description and not on the page content.
Yeah.
Description is something really stupid. I think they should finish with it because, oh, here, maximum of 255 characters. So I just reached the limit. I copied here a lot of tags. So 255. So it's
Okay.
not.
I think you still have the Spanish. There's no need for Spanish.
Okay. So 710 to the first. There's a private joke. I don't know if that was a private joke for someone.
No.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, now it is here. The content is here. The heading was not, but the content, I pasted it here. I was not seeing it, so I was getting worried too. So it's working.
Okay.
Perfect. So there's a lot of things in Moodle. This is a huge world, as you are starting to realize. Okay, so let's have a look at the, we have the gradebook. The gradebook is something that can be really simple or can be a nightmare. Oh, here are the activities. So I've been creating a lot of activities here on my test course. So let's have a look here at grades. So just check here the grades area. And you will see here, you don't have any students, but you will see here all the activities that you have created that have grading will appear here on the gradebook.
Okay.
So the first task we have to use is configure how Moodle is going to compute the final grade. Okay, so we have several individual grades, then we have a final grade. So as you can see, you have here a lot of options. This is a never-ending world of options, okay? But the most important ones are here on setup, gradebook setup. This is where you're going to set up your grades and the way that these grades are going to be computed, the final grade. So I have here all the activities, the graded activities that I have created. Thanks God, max grade for all is 100. So this makes everything easy. And I already have here a course total. And this was created with the Moodle defaults. So he assumed the default is the mean of grades. And he assumes the default, and this is not the Moodle default, this is something that we changed for you because it doesn't make sense to be the opposite. He's including the empty grades, okay? Including the empty grades means that if the student has no grade, it will count as a 0, okay? Otherwise, mean of grades, if the student has 1 grade, and the others are blank, the mean would be the grade of only activity that he has. So he would just do one activity, he gets a 100 grade, and he will have an 100 grade on the final grade. So that's why we check this, and we recommend you to use this. Include empty grades. An empty grade is a 0, is not a grade to be excluded from the calculation. Okay?
Okay.
Sometimes this might be useful to exclude empty grades, but not on this simple setting that we are looking at. So this is a possible gradebook, and it's already set up this way. So you can view the user report, you can view user report, and you can see what the users will see. And if you have a specific user here, I have here this user I created here. So, and I graded his assignment. So I can see specifically his grade book, and view report as user, not as myself, because there might be some differences if items are hidden. So view report as the user. So the user will be seeing the calculated weight. In this case, it's the mean. So every single activity has the same weight. And then you will have here the grade, the range, and the percentage. So grades can be So we'll get back here to the user reports. First, we have to change something here, because many times you don't want the mean. You want a weighted mean, because different activities have different weights. Okay, so let's get back here to setup. And you have to change the way that the final grade is calculated. Well, this is a little bit confusing. If you come here to edit and edit calculation, it's not here. Forget this. This is, you can create a formula, but I don't recommend you. This is a source of a lot of issues. Not here, okay? So if you want to change to weighted average, don't do it here. You just have to do it here on the top. This is the category for the course. This is where the settings for the final grade are, okay?
Okay.
So just edit settings, and here on the aggregation, you have mean, weighted mean, lowest, highest, forget the natural. Weighted mean of grades is the other option that you might want to use. You have here the show more. Here is the option exclude empty grades, that is removed. Drop the lowest. You can drop the lowest 1 or 2 or 3 or more notes. Okay, and then you have here the maximum grade and the minimum grade for the final grade. And you can define also a grade to pass the course. And this is it. I don't think there's nothing more relevant here. So let's check changes and see, okay, things have changed. Now I have the weights to define. Weights don't need to add up to 100. Moodle will be smart enough to compute the weights. So you can use relative weights. The first one is 3 times. The lesson is 2 times. The interactive quiz is 1 time. And this is 1 time. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's put 4. The assignments were 4. So I have here 3, 2, 1, 4. Well, they add up to 10, just to show you that once you save the changes, 3, 2, 1, 0. If I check the user report now, view user report. So Moodle has just converted those values to percentage, 30, 20, 10, 40. So the student will get here all the information about the weight in terms of percentage, right?
Okay.
Well, this is the basics of the gradebook. Now let's see something more. Well, I had I recommended you to use 0 to 100 range for all the activities. So what's the purpose of this 0 to 100 here? And if grades are on the scale 0 to 100, what information is the percentage showing that it is not already here? So this gradebook, based on our definitions, all grades are 0 to 100, has these two columns that are completely irrelevant and confusing. I don't need them. I want to remove them from here. So you have here the setup, you have here the course grade settings, where you have a lot of settings. These are on the end, the user report. Here you can define which columns you want to show or hide. And here you have some that you might want to add and some that you might want to remove. Show rank, default hide. This is really interesting. The rank will show you your position. So the student will see something like 5/20. So this means his grade on this specific activity, or the final grade, depending what he's looking at, is the 5th better grade on 20 students.
Okay.
So this is something interesting in terms of gamification, putting all the people knowing their rank related to other persons in terms of the course.
But they won't be able to see what other person is, just they know what the rank is on the overall, right?
Exactly.
Okay. I'm just thinking of GDPR issues.
Oh, no, they don't see nothing about the other students, only the rank. Of course, if they are two.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. Okay, show percentage. This is what we decided that is not relevant to show, so I can change this to hide. Show grades. Yeah, you better show the grades. Show feedback, hide. It's a good idea. Show weightings. Show weightings. You might want to show or not show. I will leave here show. Show average. This average here is from the group, from the participants. So it's something that is similar to the rank, and it's interesting to show. So you are the 5th out of 20, and the group average, the participants average, the other participants average, and you're also is 80%. So you can compare yourself to the average. Okay, show letter grades. This is not used here. It's for those kind of A, B, C levels of grades. Show contribution to the course total. This is similar to weightings, but it's different. It has a different calculation. Sometimes it's really confusing. I recommend you to hide. Show ranges 0 to 100. Default show. Let's hide it. Okay, range decimal points not relevant. Show hidden items. Default only hidden until. Hide totals if they contain hidden items. These two options here are really important because sometimes you have an item that appears on the gradebook, but you don't want it to make part of the grades. So you want to hide it, and you hide it, and then you will find that all the students cannot see the final grade. We'll all say, I cannot see the final grade, I cannot see the final grade. And why? Because this option here is active. Hide totals if they contain hidden items. So this, oh, we've changed this default because the default is hide. The Moodle default is hide, but we are changing these defaults for our customers because we have a lot of issues with this. So students don't see the final grade, so we just say change this option, and we say it 30 times for the same question because it's all photography. So we just change this default. Show totals excluding hidden items. If an item is hidden, you decided to hide it because you don't want it to make part of the final grade. And show hidden items, only hidden until don't show. This is the best option. Don't show hidden items. So I'm going to save changes, and I'm going to get back here to the user reports. And we have changed the view of the user. Calculated weight grade, no more range and percentage. Now I have here the rank and the average. And there's only one student, of course. There's not many information. You are the first of one, and your average is equal to your grade. Any question?
No.
So this is gradebook level 1. Now let's move to level 2. Gradebook has this particularity of being able to have also categories. And this makes an entire different functionality. So let's get back here to setup. And let's divide these 4 activities into 2 categories. Well, the purpose of the category is to have 2 levels of calculation. So I will calculate the category final grade and then the course final grade. So I might have as many levels as I wish. So if you have a different, very specific grading strategy that includes partial calculations and then a final calculation, the categories will help you to do that. So first thing I'm going to do is to add a category. I have the add category button here, down here, when I'm on gradebook setup. And I'm going to add 2 categories. So I will call like unit 1. And this is like the total category. It's exactly the same. I can define the way that the final grade is going to be computed. I can define the scale and so on. So I'm going to define here a weighted mean of grades also and save the changes. And here is unit 1. Now I'm going to create add category, and I'm going to create unit 2. And it can be mean of grades too, but it can be different. And this is might be a reason for you to use categories because you have to compute the final grade in different partial ways. So this I will get the highest grade, for instance. So I have some activities on unit 2 that are optional. The grade on unit 2 is the highest grade you can reach with these optional activities. And here I save changes. And okay, so now I have 2 units and they are both empty. So I have to move items to those units. So moving is just pressing on this up and down arrow. I just click and then I can click inside unit 1. There's an empty space here where I can click, move it here. So I cannot drag and drop it here. Unfortunately, drag and drop is not working on glossary on the gradebook, but click and I have always the several positions available. And now I'm going to move the other activities to unit 2. It doesn't make sense. They can be there, but it makes more sense if I'm dividing activities in units to all activities belong to one unit. So this is it. So this moment I have two levels of weights. I have the weights inside unit 1. So let's imagine first activity is 40, second is 60. And these are the weights to compute the unit 1 grade. Unit 2 doesn't have weights because I'm using the highest grade. And finally, I'm going to define the final grade for the course, which is...
I get that. So it's basically if you have a course that has, for example, 2 units, each unit has, for example, 2 assignments. You can then place, first of all, the grade for each assignment, then the weight of each assignment within that unit, and then the unit weight on the overall course grade.
Exactly.
Okay.
But this makes the gradebook a little bit more confusing, a little bit more complex to set up. I guess we're only 2 here on the...
Yeah, we are. All of them are gone, so it's basically just making me no, but that's fine. I got that.
So we can speak in Portuguese, I guess, because it's easier for me.
No, sorry, Tony, keep it in
Correct.
English because then they can see the training in English with the recording.
Let's stick to English. Okay, so
No, but it's fine. I know what you're doing because we do the same. At least I do the same, not in Moodle, but I have a couple of courses that work that way where I teach 2 units, and so there's different grades on the assignment of each unit, but then the overall unit grades in the end of the course has different rates. So I basically have an Excel sheet that does that. It calculates the weight of each assignment that I mark, and then it adds up the weight of each unit in the end. So I'm kind of okay with that. I know what you're doing.
yeah, okay, perfect. The only thing here is, isn't this a little bit confusing to the student? Let's check the student gradebook, and you see here unit 1, then you see 2 weights, then you have here a bold weight, which is the unit 1 weight. So not all the students will
Understand that, yeah.
understand this easily. So I would say the only reason I see to see to create this division in categories is when you really need to compute partial grades,
Yeah.
and then compute a final grade. And in this example I created, there's a strong reason, because unit 2 activities, the grade from these activities is the highest one. Okay, so it's impossible to do this without categories. I have the highest of these 2 will have a weight with the weighted average of the other 2 activities. So this has partial calculation. I have to do categories.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
Okay, so
there's a way of hiding that from the user.
there's a little.
There's a way of hiding those grade books from the user.
Well, when you set up, either you hide the entire grade book, or you don't hide it
at all. Okay.
Yeah. In the course settings, there's a setting that is show gradebook to students.
Okay, but that's fine. So we can set up the gradebook for our own purposes, but then we can simply hide them from the students, and they'll only see whenever you put them a grade or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
They can still see their final grade, although they won't see the calculations of the gradebook.
Oh, I guess they don't see the final grade.
Okay. Okay.
They won't see it. Okay, and what else can we say here about the gradebook? Here on setup, there's always something more to talk about. You can add a grade item, a manual grade item. So if you press here, add grade item, this is a manual grade item that you will have to input the grade here on gradebook because it's not connected to any automatic grading activity. So class participation, this would be useful for something like this, class participation. And okay, 0 to 100, this is it. Save changes. Then you should place it on a specific category or not. It can stay here on the main category and it will have the same, it will be part of the units calculation. So this one has 75, this one has 25, and this one could have another 25. Okay. And this would, of course, I would have to change the weight on the top. So this is, you can use this very easily. Well, how could I input the grade here? So you have here the view grader report, where you can see for your students all the activities, all the grades. So this is for just for the grader. He can access all the students and all the activities, and he has here this button, turn editing on, that allows him not only to input some grades here on the manual grade, but he can also change a specific grade here. I don't recommend to change these grades because it will break the link between the activity and the gradebook. If I change, okay, I don't recommend it. It's something that I don't see the reason to do it, but it's only an exception. So anyway, you can always get back the link. Imagine I will put here 85 and I press enter.
Yeah, it could be just an exception instead of sometimes what we have is we have revisions of grades on an exam board. So that could be, and we don't regrade the whole thing, we just kind of override the final grade. So that could be kind of an exam board override.
Yeah, well, I would always prefer to do it on the activity because if the student accesses his assignment, he will see 78 grade. Here you will see 85. Well, I don't know if he will see the 85 grade, but anyway, the quiz, imagine the quiz, he answered the questions and then the grade doesn't add up. You can always get to the quiz and manually change a grade. You can get to the assignment and manually change the grade. Okay. Anyway, if you want to recover the link between the two, you have to click here on this wheel, edit grade, and you have to uncheck this overridden box.
Okay.
Uncheck the overridden box and it will get back to automatically linked to the activity and the 78 will appear again here. Okay. So let me think about if there is anything more about the gradebook that is missing. Grade history. This is like all the changes in the grades. You can recover them here. You can search and search them here. Overview report. This is only admins will have access to this overview report. And the students also might have access to the overview report. They will see the final grade in all the courses they have. Oh, so answering your question, if you hide the course gradebook to the students, they can always have access to this overall gradebook where they see the list of courses they are enrolled on and the final grade they just got. Okay, there's also a single view that allows you to view for each graded item all the students, or for each student all the grades. So this is a very focused way to accessing the gradebook. If you can see the gradebook by an item and compare all the students, or see a student and compare all the items of the student. Okay, so here on the setup, we have seen everything. Scales doesn't import, export. Well, export and import, this is always something that is useful if you want to export your grades. You have here a lot of formats: open document spreadsheet, plain text file, Excel spreadsheet, and you can select which grades you want to export and how, and you can download an Excel file with all the grades.
Okay.
Just let me see here if there is something here that we should refer. Overview report, grade items, settings. No, nothing relevant. Okay, so gradebook is okay. So let's have a look at the reports now.
Okay. Did we see the part of the groups assignments?
I have here I have here a note, but we didn't see it yet. We will see it soon. Let's have a look here at the reports. As a teacher, you have access to several reports, and one of the reports is the participant report. So if you just get here to a participant, you see the participant list, and then click on one participant. I'm going to change Moodle to show you something with more information. So I will go here to the course participants here, course participants, and then on each course, I can click the user profile. I'm going to click here on Joanna. And once you are here, you have access to these reports here. Today's logs, all logs. What are logs? Logs are click by click, every action that the student has been doing on the platform, and it will show you this chart with the number of clicks per date.
Okay.
You can have an idea about the activity, and you can check here. This is really big brother information. Yeah, you know, the IP, origin IP, and so on. So if a student tells you, I submitted the quiz, there's no grade, I submitted the quiz, you just come here. If the student didn't log in or didn't click the quiz or didn't submit the quiz, because every of those actions will be here: course viewed, everything that is submitted or viewed, quiz attempt viewed.
Is that was GDPR or?
Well, GDPR.
No, just sorry. Not worry.
You just have to inform your users.
Yeah.
This is the information you store about them. So they just have to accept it, and this is it.
No, I know. Don't worry.
Okay, so, and you have here then some more synthetic reports like the outline report. The outline report will show you for each resource activity that there is in the course and on the different sections, how many views the user has and when was the last access. So you have here plenty of information. Also, you have here the grade when the activity is graded. So this is a nice summary. You can see a similar report, which is the complete report. That's, besides showing you exactly the same information, it also shows the specific user contributions. Here the forum posts, here the lesson report, here the glossary contributions, the submissions to the glossary, scores and so on, assignments, feedback, everything. So you have for each student an overall report of everything that happened inside this course. And so on. You have here also some statistics, some overview of the grades. So the grades overview will give you access to the overall grades report with all the courses where the student is participating and the respective grades. And you have also the grades on this specific course. Well, you have a lot of information about the participant here. There's also here, you can see the forum posts, forum discussions. You can access here a lot of information specific for the student. Now let's have a look at the reports for the specific course, not for the specific student. So we are getting back to the course page. And here on this wheel, the reports are not directly accessible. You have to click on more. So once you click on more, you have here a tab with the reports. And you have here several reports. Some of them are not really useful. These analytic graphs, these are really advanced graphs. It's a analytics how do I say it? The purpose of the analytics is to try to anticipate the student failure probability and the student. Okay, so it takes into account a lot of information on not only on Moodle, but a lot of Moodles, and depending on the way the student is.
The performance will calculate an estimate of, based on other students of similar behavior, how that will work.
Exactly. So this must be activated. I don't know if it's active on your Moodle, but we haven't been activating it because, as you know, this kind of predicting models are always really they fail a lot. They have a lot of false alarms. Okay, so but let's have a look at things that are important here. I think we already seen the activity completion report, right?
Yeah.
Which shows which students have completed which activities. And we have seen also the course completion report, which is really similar, the course completion report. So let's have a look at other, so course activity. These reports are in English. Oh, this is not available. This is a custom report. Course space is also custom. So logs, it's the same as you saw for the participant. You can get for all participants. So click by click, what have all participants been doing on the last few months. So you have here a huge amount of history of your users. And live logs is all constantly updated. Activity report, this shows some statistics about your course activities, how many views, how many users, last access. And we have here overview statistics, course participation. This is this has an interesting feature. You can come here to course participation, choose an activity. I'm going to choose a quiz here. Quizzes, here they are. I'm going to choose this quiz and look back last year and show only students and show all actions. Okay, all participants go. So I will have here for this quiz how many actions each student has performed on each quiz. And I can filter here, instead of actions, post actions. And post means submitting a quiz. So if I do this, I will have here a list of who submitted a quiz and who didn't submit the quiz. And I have here the possibility of selecting all those, and with the select users, send a message. So this is a manual possibility to send a message to a set of students that haven't completed a specific activity.
Okay.
Okay, so these are the reports. You have plenty of information. So the important thing, I think the completion reports are the most important. And now we could talk about groups. So talking about groups, it's not easy because we don't have students to. Okay, so let's have a look at the groups. So the first thing you need to do when you want to work with groups is to move to the participants page. Once you are on the participants page, you will have here the groups option. Okay, so let's enter the groups here. And now you can define as many groups as you wish, or you can even auto-create groups, okay? So auto-create groups will allow you to create automatically groups based on the number of groups you want to create or the number of members per group. For instance, I can use this group at the @ symbol here will be replaced by a letter. The cardinal symbol will be replaced by a number. Okay?
Okay.
So you can use group 1, 2, 3 or group ABC. I'm going to replace it by the cardinal symbol. Okay, and I'm going to create the groups based on this restriction. I want 2 members per group or 3 members per group. Select student randomly, or you can choose another order to group the students randomly. I'm going to choose randomly. And then you have here other options. Prevent last small group. If it's too small, they will be spread over the other groups. Ignore users that are already in groups and include only active enrollments. So you have this option. Of course, we don't have 3 students, so only 1 group will be created. No groups will be created because we check I check the box to avoid prevent last small group. Okay, student, number of groups, members per group 3. Submit. Now 1 group was created. But anyway, you can create your groups manually here, pressing on the create group button, and you will write here group C. You have here several options. You can create a description and give an image to a group, and this might be used on the participant list. For instance, if you select the participant list and then you choose a group, you will see the image. And save changes. Okay, you will be able to add remove users to a group, pressing select a group and then press here the button add remove users. And here you will have all the available users, all the potential members from the course, and you will be able to add or remove the users from here. Okay, this is the group creation. Any question?
No, so far so good.
There's also an activity, if you want us to install, which is the group choice, which is very similar to the choice, but instead of at the end, when students are entering to group choice, they are choosing the group they will participate, and they will be really enrolled on that group. So if you want to divide your students into groups, you don't need to do this division manually. You can, or use the auto creation of groups. You just create the groups and then you select you add the group choice activity to the course and set it up to allow students to enroll on the specific groups you want.
Okay.
Okay, so we have two groups. And now let's have a look. What are the impacts of the groups? Let's have a look on our, well, let's start with the forum. I don't have any forum here. I'm going to create a forum very quickly. Okay, I'm going to create a forum. Standard forum for general use. Okay, I have here a forum. Now let's edit the settings. And all the activities have here this box here, which is common model settings. And here you have this option, group mode. No groups or separate groups or visible groups. The forum is the easiest one to understand because it's really, it makes sense. There are some activities that the groups don't make sense, but it has always some impact. Well, when you use the forum with separate groups, I'm going to save changes and display. This is like there are two different forums. One for group A, one for group C. And only the teacher, because they are separate groups, only the teacher and the admin can have this drop-down box here with the possibility of choosing which group or all groups he wants to see. Okay?
Okay.
So separate groups, students will only see the posts and replies from their own group. They won't see the posts and replies from the other groups. The visible groups will allow students to have access to this drop down here. But the difference is they can post and reply on their group, and on the other groups, they only can view. They cannot post or reply. So this is the difference between separate and visible groups here on the forum. This makes a lot of sense. Okay, the teacher has to have something in mind, which is if the teacher wants the students to answer a post, he cannot submit a post to all participants, because if he submits a post to all participants, no participant will be able to answer the post because the post doesn't belong to their group. Okay.
Okay.
They will be able to see it, but they won't be able to answer it. That's why when I press here, add a new discussion topic, there's a link here. There's a checkbox here that exists because of this problem of the groups. So I can post a copy to all groups. So once I send a message, it will be replicated to all groups. I will be posting one message for each group. And this way, the students will be able to answer to that message. So this is something that is a little bit tricky. So this is it about forum groups. Well, what about using groups in a quiz? What is the impact? Quiz is an individual activity, so groups in a quiz hasn't got any impact. The only impact that groups in a quiz has is the possibility of filtering the students when I'm seeing the reports. So if well, I don't have any attempt here, but I'm going to show you here. When I check here as a teacher, I check here a quiz, and I access here the reports, grades. So I have here a report with all the students, all the questions, question 1, 2, 3, 4, and all the grades, correct, incorrect, and so on, they had on their attempts. So if I have, if I set up this this quiz to be visible or separate groups, The only thing that will happen is when I'm looking at this report, I will have a drop down as a teacher to see each group separated from the other. So it's just a filter. The impact on this kind of activities that are individual activities is none, just for the teacher, allowing the teacher to filter the participants report, the participants report, in this case, the quiz report. Okay, so now let's move to the important, the thing that was important here, which is the assignment. That's why we are talking about the groups. So finally, let's move on to the assignment. Here is the assignment. Let's edit the settings. So first I want to show you here that this can be a little bit tricky, because when you come here to common model settings on the assignment, you have the group mode too, but this is not what you are looking for. This only allows the teacher to filter students by group. Okay, doesn't allow you to doesn't allow the students to submit as groups, because that will, I will choose here separate or visible, it's the same. For group submissions, you have to use these options here, group submission settings. You have to open this, students submit in groups, you have to choose yes. This moment nobody is allowed, because I cannot change the option because I have one submission. I'm going to delete that submission. View all submissions, and I cannot delete it. I could try, but I think it's easier to create a new assignment. I'm going to create a new assignment, blah, 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 blah. And here it is. Group submission settings, student submitting group, yes. Require group to make submission. Okay, this is student must belong to a group to make submission. Usually this doesn't make sense to be no. The idea is students that don't belong to any group can submit as a group with all the students that don't have group. So this is a little bit stupid. So require group to make submission. Yes, of course. Student must belong to a group. If he doesn't belong to a group, he cannot submit, and he must complain that he doesn't belong to any group. Require all group members to submit. This is related to this option. Require students to click the submit button. So if I require the students to click the submit button, yes, now this option is available. Require all group members to submit. So this is like, okay, there's a submit button to finally, when the work is complete, press the submit button, but not only this one student needs to press submit, all the group members must check the assignment and agree, yes, this is our submission. So okay, it's something, I don't think it's something that is boring for all the students, but okay.
So sometimes it is required. You may have an agent in the group that decides to submit substandard work without the knowledge of the other members.
Yeah.
But then he can help. The problem is if there's a member of the group that's, by the contrary, if you have someone on that group that has not been participating, so he's a bad student and has fallen off the grid, that means that that group cannot submit their work without the approval of that member, isn't it?
Yes, I guess so. It's a good question. Will be considered as submitted, yes. Before the group submission will be considered. So what would happen the group would complain to the teacher, hey, you have to exclude this person from the group because we cannot submit the work. He's not available. Okay. Well, the point here is not is to ensure that everybody agree with it,
what's being submitted. Yeah, I get that.
because you can get that situation where one of them submits and then the other says, oh, this is not the final work. This guy was wrong. He submitted the wrong file. So
yeah, it's kind of a check. Yeah, I get that.
okay, so well, there's something here that is grouping. We have been doing this, but first let's finish the groups. There's also something I want to show you. So I'm going to save, change, and return to the course. So once I set groups on one activity, the activity will show here separate groups, this icon here, and this is no groups. No groups because the common model options are no groups, but this is a group assignment. Okay, there's another place where you can change the groups, which is here on the course settings. So I just click here on the wheel and access the edit settings. And down here, you also have the groups tab. And here on this tab, you can choose a group mode for your course. So the impact on this change here is on the participant list. So once you, for instance, if you create separate groups, group mode, inside a course, when the students access the participant list, if they have access to it, they will be able to see that the students, they will only be able to see the students of the same group that they belong to. Other students, they won't be visible. And then you have here another option that is interesting, which is the default group mode, force group mode. So you can force this group mode to all the activities. So if you select here group mode, separate groups, and then force group mode, separate also, once I save and display, you can see now that all the activities, I'm going to set this forum on the common model settings, group mode, separate groups, and I cannot change it. It is forced, okay?
Okay.
So if you, when you want to have two groups of students on the same course, but you don't want them to even know that they exist, you can use this. The only problem is the glossary. The glossary doesn't have groups. It just joins all the contributions from both groups because Moodle thinks it makes more sense. But in that case, you will have the problem that students from separate groups will be seeing contributions from different groups. Okay, this is it. Well, groups, there's also groups 2.0. There's another issue with groups, not issue, there's another functionality with groups, which is groupings. And groupings are sets of groups. And what is the purpose of groupings? I can explain you.
It could be if you have, for example, we have some of our units where you have different groups on different subjects, for example, a group of engineers, a group of architects, and we may need to put them to collaborate on a bigger picture, on a bigger work. Would that be?
Yeah, it can be something like that, but it's wider. The range of application is wider. Well, first let me show you one thing. If I check here the settings, the restrict access has a new condition, which is the group. So you can add a restriction to a group. Okay, just for recording, let's talk a little bit about groupings. So groupings are sets of groups. So I'm going to show an example why should we use sets of groups. So I'm going back here to participant list. I have here this wheel. I can access here the groups. well, exactly here on the same interface where I set up the groups, I can set up the groupings. So I'm going to create a grouping. And well, before this, let me just get back to the groups. So I have here group A, group C. I'm going to create another group, group B. So imagine these are work groups, groups that people will use for submitting assignments. And now imagine there is another level of dividing students, which is, for instance, like class. So we have class 1 or class, class 1. And class 1 will have the students that are interested on a particular subject or something. And I'm going to create another group, class 2. So this is the problem of groupings. When we have two different sets of groups, and of course we don't want to use them at the same time, this creates a problem because for Moodle, these are 5 groups, and he doesn't understand that the same students are organized into 3 groups, work groups, group A, B, C, and are organized into 2 classes, class 1 and 2. And these are different organizations of groups. Moodle doesn't understand that, and what is going to happen if I enter here a forum that has separate groups? You will see here the class 1, class 2 group, group A, group B, group C groups. So this doesn't make any sense because and the same happens on the assignment. If I move to the assignment, when I moved to the assignment, I decided that the assignment would have groups submissions, okay? But if the assignment has group submissions, how does Moodle know that the groups that are going to submit are group A, B, C, and not class 1 and class 2? So what will happen is when a student is submitting his work, he will have the ability to submit his work as group 1, as group A, imagining that he belongs to group A, and has class 1, imagining that he belongs to class 1. So he will have 2 groups to submit the assignment. This is a little bit strange. So that's why we need the groupings, is just to create several organizations of groups. So let's get back to the groups, to the participant page where we can edit the groups. Let's get back to the group interface. Let's check here the groupings. And now I'm going to create 2 groupings. One grouping called work groups, save changes, and another group called classes, save changes. And now I'm going to define which groups belong to each grouping, and that will be done here, show groups in grouping. Okay, so classes, show groups in grouping, no groups yet. Let's add these 2. And let's get back to groupings. Okay, classes already has the groups class 1 and class 2. Work groups, let's define group ABC as groups belonging to work group, to grouping work groups. So now I have the 2 different organizations divided into 2 different groupings. What should I do now? Now I must access all the activities that I have set up with groups and change them to specify which grouping will they be using as a group for, as criteria for the group selection. So this is the forum. So let's check here on common model settings. This is separate group. Okay, but this, I want to have different forums from different classes. So I just choose the classes work group, save and display. And now only the groups class 1 and class 2 appear here. So the groups the work groups, group A, B, C won't appear here. So students will only have one group and they will only see one forum here. The same happens to the quiz, to the assignment. So I defined group submission settings. Yes, yes, yes. Grouping for students, groups, work groups. So the students will be submitting related to the work group they belong, group A, B, or C. So classes are not used here as a criteria. So, well, I try to do the same here on the common model settings that I do here. So yes, separate groups and separate or visible, it's indifferent because this is only applicable to the teacher view and it doesn't make any difference. And I'm going to select group groups. And this is it. Save and return to the course. And finally, also the course settings where I could define the groups. Here, the participants will be divided into separate groups, yes, but which groups? I can define also classes. Classes or work groups, but I think classes makes more sense. So students will only be able to see the participant list of their the students that belong to their class. Okay, save and display. Okay, we still have a few minutes. Let me check here which other activities could we talk about. So if I add an activity or resource, we have talked about the assignment, the chat. The chat is a little bit boring. The chat is a written communication tool, synchronous. So everybody has to be online to use the chat, and everybody writes something and they can see each other's messages. This is a really boring activity because it takes a lot of time for people to write and you have to wait a lot. And if it's a very dynamic chat, if you have 50 people in the same chat, once the student makes a question, once the teacher answers, 30 questions and messages have been going on the chat, and so it's too late and the communication is really difficult. So it's not an activity that I would recommend. Choice, we have seen. Database is an extended glossary. So the database, you can define which fields you want to use. So I'm going just to show you how to use the database. So imagine a database of books, for instance, books. And you have here a lot of settings. If you want approval from the teacher to be required, allow comments on entries. Okay, maximum numbers of entries for each participant. Availability dates, you can grade you can define the ratings here, sum of ratings or average of ratings if the student has more than one database record, and so on. And save and display. Okay, and here the database is like a glossary, but the fields are open, so you can create your own fields. So the first thing you have to do as a teacher is to create the fields, define the structure of the table database that you are going to use. So you will be able to view a list of records, a single record, to search records, and students will be able to do this. Add an entry, students also will be able to do this. Now this is reserved to the teacher. Export templates, fields, and presets. So first thing we have to do, define the fields. So this is really plain, easy. So you have to define a field, for instance, books. The first field will be a text input. And the field name would be book name. Field description, you can put here some extra information, name of the book. Okay, is this a required field? Obviously it is. Allow auto link is, this means that it's the same as the glossary. You can activate the auto links. This means that if this word, the book name is found on any content on the course, it will be converted to a link to this database record. Okay, so allow autolink is an option. You also, like the glossary, you have to activate the filter autolink to database. It's exactly like the glossary. So I'm going to press add here to add the record, and then I can add another fields. So let me just date, publish date, for instance, publish date, add. You can add several checkbox, for instance, field name, cover, and you can put options: soft cover, hard cover, no cover, just to put 3 options. Okay, you have here several options. You have the file, PDF file, if available, of course, not required. Let's just put here a reasonable maximum size. And so on. You can add other options. You can add image, picture, so the cover of the book, okay? You can add a text area, like a book description, a long text area where the students can write whatever they want. And the date, we already used the date. So latitude, longitude of if you want to put here the coordinates for any point. So this is it. Now you can add an entry, and students can add an entry, and this form was created for you. Book name, published date, soft or hard. Well, I choose multiple choice. I should have chosen radio buttons to only be able to choose one. So you can upload a PDF file here and save and view. Yeah, you have a record. View single template is not defined. You have to define templates to the view single and to the view list. And this is not very obvious. The best thing to do is just get here to the templates, single template. Let's create the single template. You will get this suggestion. You can click here on reset and it will be reset. You can edit this. This is the title. This is the field placeholder. You can edit all this, and we already have the view single. Here is the view single. Of course, this is ugly, but here on the template, you can format all this table, okay? And if you are a CSS pro, you can check here the HTML code and you can improve this table a lot. Just adding borders, of course, it's something that will edit table. No way, it doesn't let me to add borders. You need to know a little bit about CSS to add some borders to the table. Okay, this is the database. Let me have a look if there are any other activities that you need to know. External tool, this is a how do I say it? This is a standard that allows e-learning content to communicate to each other, even learning management systems to communicate to each other. So the learning standard is LTA, Learning Tools Interoperability. And if you have an external learning tool that is that supports LTI, you can make it available here for your students. So, and if they have a grade on that LTI tool, the grade will be inserted here. So forum glossary we have seen. H5P, I hope you have been exploring this. This is a huge tool. It has thousands of options, thousands of possibilities. I've shown you very quickly this, the interest of this option. Lesson quiz we have talked about. Survey, irrelevant, forget this. Wiki, it's like a small Wikipedia that you can create and your students can create a collaborative document. Well, the workshop is something a little bit difficult to use. It's like an assignment, but with peer assessment. So you define the assignments, the instructions, you define the grading grid, and then students submit their work, and then they receive other colleagues' work for them to grade. And finally, the teacher grades also all the work. And the final grade of the students will be based on the grade they got from their colleagues, the grade they got from the teacher, and the quality of their grade. And the quality of their grade will be compared, will be defined based on the deviation from the average and the weight of the teacher's grading will be you will be able to weight a lot the teacher's grading. For instance, if a student graded a colleague work and gave him 100% grade, and the teacher didn't, the teacher graded the student with the 10%, well, the grading component of the student, the grading activity component of the student will have a very low grade because he was very far from the teacher grading. So, well, we are just behind schedule, before schedule. I just want to talk about the feedback. I think you might be interested in using feedback. Feedback, it's like comparable to a quiz, but it's not a graded activity. So here is where you get feedback from your students if you want to make them some questions. I'm just going to show you very quickly. What is your opinion about the course? Okay, you can define availability dates. If you want submissions to be anonymous or identified, allowed multiple submissions, I guess you will say no, you just want one submission for each student. Enable notifications, auto number questions, blah, blah, blah. After submissions, you have some options, save and display. Well, and now you have to edit the questions. This is like the quiz. You have here a lot of options, multiple choice, rated. This is the most difficult. What you have to do is something like this. How did you like the course? Did you like the course? Okay, multiple choice, single answer or multiple answer, but in this case, single answer. Vertical, the options will appear on the vertical. Hide the not selected option, no or yes. Do not analyze empty submits, no or yes. And multiple choice values. So this is the most complex one because you have to put here all the options, one per line, one line for each answer. But you have this 0/, which is the rating. That's why we choose a rated question, multiple choice rated. This one is the only one that allows to give you means. So 0, no, 1/ more or less, 2/ yes, and 3/ a lot. Okay, so this will allow you to compute averages. So if 2 students answer 3 and 1 answer 1, the average will be 367 divided by 3. So it won't be between 3 and 2. Save the question. And this is it. You have the first question. You can preview, overview, and you have here a preview where? Preview, it's here. You can preview. Yes, this is what the student will be answering. Okay, I choose vertical. I could have chosen horizontal. I still can change it, I guess. Edit questions. Let's edit the question and change it to horizontal. Save changes to the question, and overview, preview. Now it looks better. So you have here different sets of questions. You have here numerical answers, short answer, multiple choice without the rating, longer text answer, label. Label is not a question, it's just a label. Information, you can get the date. There are several informations that you can get the date, the user, and so on. You just have to choose the information and then choose which information you want to add to the answer. When you export the answer list, they will bring the course or the course category or the date and time of the response submission. Date and time will only be available if the course, if the feedback is not anonymous. And well, this is it, CAPTCHA and page break. Well, I think this is it. I hope you will be seeing this video and you have reached the end. So this ends the training, and I hope to be in touch with you guys and help you whenever you need. So see you guys later. Bye-bye.